afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a life celebration by Franklin monthly grief symposium. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Sunday afternoon. You guys, it seems like this has been just a short month. As we always say, February is the short month. They'll say, but if you actually look at it, it's the same 4 weeks from one month to the next that we got to this, but it's just a shorter month at the end of the month. So hopefully everybody has had to get a moment in Black history that we've all been going through this month for the Black history. So hopefully everybody's gotten a good resources or anything for Black history. Also, I want to say that uh, we need y'all go out and vote. Everybody's out voting right now, so I understand that the end of this week for us, end of this week will be the last week for early voting. So just want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. Today, our lesson is going to be understanding grief from the inside out. And at this point, we want to go ahead and welcome Dr. Cunningham. Hello, Dr. Cunningham.
Hello, Miss Marie. How are you?
I'm great. Yourself?
I am wonderful. Thanks for asking.
Good, good. Um, we're ready for you to actually go ahead and start. I don't think I have anything else. I was just, giving them
Okay.
the highlights on voting and doing the Black history. So
Yeah.
I'm go ahead and
Well, thank you, Marie, for that reminder to vote. A friend of mine, she and I spoke on last week, and kind of like you, I had a busy week as well, and I forgot. So thank you so much for that friendly reminder. Definitely going to go out and vote this week. I like to get in early. I like to get in early. So greetings, everyone. So excited to see you all. I see you coming in on Facebook. If you don't mind, as always, we're going to ask if you would just let us know where you're logging in from. Say hello to us. We certainly glad that you are here with us live, and we appreciate those of you who actually go back and watch the replay. So welcome again to our monthly grief symposium. And yes, this is February. February. Can y'all believe we're already almost in the third month of this brand new year? We're about to go towards our second quarter. And a happy Black History Month. I know there have been a lot of celebrations that's been taking place all over the DFW area here and even in Texas. And so my contribution, I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, you can see them a little bit. Look at there, my nails. My nail tech, she's pretty savvy. And I said I wanted to do, actually, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. I just wanted something about Valentine's, right? Since it is the love month. And she asked me because she's a Black entrepreneur, a young millennial, I believe. I think she's a little older than being a millennial. But anyway, she said, can we do something for Black history, Black love? And I said, absolutely we can. So she did one hand. This one is for Black history, Black love, and it's got all the colors there for Black history. And then she did the traditional Valentine's Day colors over here. And it has been fun. It has been fun. I've certainly gotten a lot of attention about the nails. So that has been my contribution, other than just appreciating being alive, appreciating the freedoms that we do have. So happy Black History Month. Hey, Miss Cynthia, thank you so much for joining. So I want to welcome those of you who have been on here before. You know that you come monthly. We appreciate you. We call you frequent flyers. Thank you so much again for tuning in today. But we also want to appreciate those of you who may be here for the very first time. And if this is your first time logging in with us, would you put a 1 in the comment section? Put a 1 in the comment section, and our digital team, our production team, will certainly recognize you. We appreciate you being here. And as always, I'm going to ask if you can, sharing is caring. So if you can share the broadcast while we're on, that will let other people know that we are live. You can also tag people that will let them know that we are live and in color. So the handout, today's handout, as always, if you will look under the description of this particular video, and you will find a link there. You'll find a link. You can click it and you can download your handout. How cool is that? Modern technology, man. Oh, now that I talked about modern technology, one of my clients, she's a speaker, and I saw she posted a video. She was in one of those driverless cars. I said, girl, you're brave. I don't know. I couldn't do that. I don't think I could ride in a car where there's no driver. So modern technology, right? So yes, you want to click the link, get the handout. If you don't get it while we're on, we definitely want you to get it once you finish. Once you finish, so you can have that handout. Yes, Karen Avery from Austin, Texas. You like the nails? Thanks, Karen. So she's on YouTube. Thank you so much for expressing that. We appreciate you all. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today, you always know, those of you who have been here before, hey, Cynthia, you on YouTube now. Yeah, you on both of them. Come on. I love that. So I want you to always share, what have you done to take care of yourself since I saw y'all last month? What have you done to take care of yourself? You know, we're big about taking care of yourself, because if you don't, who will? Who will take care of you? There are many, many cases that I've seen. I've worked in the funeral service industry. I've worked in hospice care. I've worked in social work, all three of them, for over 35 years. And one of the things that I've learned is that most of us, we don't exercise great self-care. We really don't. I used to be one of those people. I just started, again, implementing self-care in my life. But I remember back then, I would have clients, social work clients. Clients would be in the nursing home and things like that. And the little caregivers would be running themselves ragged to take care of the loved one. And a lot of times I saw the caregiver pass away before the patient. It was because, again, they ran themselves to death. So I want you to put in the comment section, what have you done to take care of yourself? We use this as a time of sharing, a time of caring, as well as a time of accountability. So I always want to lead by example. For me, since I saw you guys last, I'm still on a self-care regimen. We all should be on that, actually, every day. But for me, I am intentional about my physical health now, because for the last few years, I've been intentional about my mental health. And now that I am able to regulate my emotions, that's what my therapist said. I wish he could have given me a smiley face, a little sticker, how we used to get in kindergarten. Like, hey, I got a smiley face, because my therapist helped me to understand that you are learning to manage your emotions well. All of us need to be in that space to learn how to manage our cortisol and our emotions. And we're going to be talking about emotions today. So now I'm focusing on that physical body. I'm dealing with menopause. That is kicking my behind. I really need to get some balance in that space. So that's what I'm doing. Let's see, next Saturday, I have an appointment with an herbalist because I really want to do things holistically. I really do. I want to come off all prescribed medication. I'm only on one pill, which is the blood pressure. And finally, that was something that I was struggling with for the last few years. Got that stable. And so now working on the menopause and just working on inflammation and all those things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm being on top of my physical health and doing the things that I need to do. So what have you guys done? Marie, can you put something in the chat? What are you doing, or what have you done since I saw you last month? Because you guys, you work a lot, taking care of other people. The Franklin House, they take care of a lot of people. So what have you done to take care of yourself? I want to see you put that in the chat. So while you guys are doing that, I am going to go ahead and start with our handout. We're talking about understanding grief from the inside out. And interestingly enough, I spoke at my church this morning. My pastor is out of the country, and it was my time to be up to share. And we just started a series called From Trauma to Trust. trauma to trust, and how trauma is a very real thing. And we have to learn to move to trust. And one of the points that I shared about, I spoke about Joseph and how he had a lot of trauma, right? He had a lot of trauma with his family who didn't like him. His brothers didn't like him. And so his healing had to take place from the inside out. So I want us to be able to look at that from a grief perspective. And on the handout, you'll see that there is a graphic of some characters, animated characters, and it's from a movie called Inside Out. Now, if you've seen that movie, let me know. Put it in the comment section if you have seen the movie called Inside Out. And I just saw it myself. I think it was during the pandemic when I was introduced to that particular movie, when we were all quarantined and we were all behind closed doors, and we were on the internet a lot, and we lived on the internet as survival mode to be connected with one another. And so that's how I was introduced to it, because a lot of therapists were recommending that people go watch that movie if you haven't done so. And I went to watch it. Of course, it was online because it was during the pandemic. It was absolutely an amazing movie. Now, here's the mindset that I used to have before going through grief. I used to think that cartoons were for kids only. They are not. I started watching this movie, and it helped me understand that movies calm me down, especially an animated movie. So that's one of the things that I do for myself. That's one of the things that I do for myself, is watch movies. So in your handout, there is a link to the video that I want you to go watch. This movie is Inside Out 2. And that's the one that I saw. So they have two. They have the original one. You can watch that one too. But I really want you to watch the second one. That's what we're going to talk about today. So Karen said, travel to Singapore for relaxation. Come on. I absolutely love it. Traveling is one of the things that I love to do as well. And believe it or not, traveling is one of the top things that people do when they're in grief. They really are doing a lot of traveling. Let's see, about a couple of weekends ago, I spoke at an event, and it was for a lady who started a travel business. And it was because of grief. Her young granddaughter, I think she may have been 8 or something like that, somewhere in that age, she was suddenly killed in a car accident. And no doubt she's dealing with complicated grief. And so she started traveling. And she has a group of ladies that they go travel. But then she started having events here in the home area, because a lot of people don't travel. Like my older sisters, I wish I could get them to travel. They will not travel out of Fort Worth, Texas. My sister, my oldest sister, just went earlier last year with her classmates. I think they went to Martha's Vineyard. We talk every day on the phone. She was so ready to come home. She was only gone 7 days, but she was ready to come home because they don't travel. So good for you, Karen. I'm glad you went, and it sounds like you got some good relaxation. So again, the movie Inside Out. That's what we're going to be talking about today, because on the handout, it has all of these animated characters, and they all represent emotions. Emotions. So when we talk about that, most people think there are not many emotions, but there are a lot of emotions. When I ask people, how are you doing since your loved one died? Or how are you doing since you went through the divorce or lost your job or whatever it is that you lost? And a lot of people said, I really don't feel at all. Or some people will say, well, I'm not emotional. Well, the truth is they don't understand the difference between emotions and feelings. Every one of us, we're emotional. We're emotional. I explain to you in a minute why all of us are. It doesn't matter who we are, men, women, children. It crosses cultures, just like grief. Every one of us as a human being, we are emotional. Okay? So, hi. Hello there, Pastor. Good to see you. You coping. Look at there. He's a student of mine. So his response is, I asked him, how is he doing? He said, I'm coping, you know. versus saying what is the default answer when people ask you how you doing in grief? I'm good or I'm fine. Okay, but we want to use clinical terms. It talks about coping because you come here to learn coping skills. So this whole month, I've been talking about emotions and how important they are because believe it or not, whether you're in grief or not, all of us need to learn how to regulate our emotions. Okay, you need to find yourself in a place of balance. So this particular movie that I want you guys to watch is called Inside Out 2, and it talks about a little girl. It talks about an 11-year-old little girl. Her name is Riley. Her name is Riley, and basically she navigates a major life-changing experience by moving to a new city, right? So we know that grief is not just about death only. It is about any kind of loss, any kind of loss. Okay, so she moved to a new city. I spoke with a dear colleague of mine maybe 6 months ago, and she was on a live of mine, and she ended up having to move to the Houston, Texas area. She's from this area, and she said that was about a year or so ago when we talked, and she said I had no idea that I was in grief. She said I was so sad. I didn't have a support system here in Houston at the time, and she didn't know what was going on. She was in grief. She was in grief because she transitioned to a new city. To a new city. That's right. That's right, Pastor. I'm fine. That is the default response. So, Riley, this little lady, the one of the reasons I want you to watch the movie, hopefully it will cause you to relax and just sit down and be still for a moment, but it will help you understand how emotions definitely impact our lives. Okay? So, inside her mind, she has all of these core emotions like joy and sadness and anger and fear and disgust, and working together to help her adjust. So all of these emotions are living in her head, and it's so funny to watch. Okay, because all of those emotions are attempting to work together to help this little girl Riley adjust to her new life in a new city. When we talk about grief, most people think the only emotion that a lot of people experience is sadness. It's sadness. And that is not the only emotion. There are a whole bunch of emotions and feelings that we can experience from day to day, whether we are in grief or not. So you have all those emotions, and believe it or not, anger is one of the most popular emotions that people experience in grief versus sadness. A lot of people experience sadness, but a lot of people experience anger as well. So it talks about when joy and sadness accidentally get pulled away from what they call the control center, which is Riley's mind. Riley becomes overwhelmed and she becomes disconnected. So the emotions, joy and sadness, they are pulled from her mind, from the control center. And then all of a sudden she becomes disconnected because those emotions are not there, and she doesn't want to know, she doesn't know what to do. So as the emotions race to return back to the control center, Riley learns that sadness is not a weakness. We can learn a lot from Riley. Sadness is not a weakness, but a vital part of healing and connecting. Can you put that in the comment section if you're able to do so? Sadness is not a weakness. It's a vital part of healing and connection. Now, I work with a lot of people of faith, a lot of people out of the church, and those are the hardest clients to work with for the most part. Because a lot of them think they know everything because they know the Lord and they know everything about grief. And I work with some people out of the church, and sadness is something they don't like feeling. Why? Because the joy of the Lord is my strength, right? That is the scripture that we go to. And that's good. Yes, he is your strength. But a lot of times you don't feel joyous, right? I remember years ago, before the pandemic, I was in a grief support group, and it was a African American lady and her daughters came. Beautiful family. Her young son, I believe he was the only boy. He was the youngest. He died by suicide. And her husband at the time, he was living. He has since died, and he was a pastor of a church. But the young man took his life in the family car in front of the church. Imagine having going to church, first of all, every Sunday, and you got to pass the place where your son took his life in the family car. And I remember her in group one day, she raised her hand. She said, the women at the church, they really want me to just be lifting my hands and praising God. And she said, I just don't feel like doing that. Is something wrong with me? I said, no, nothing's wrong with you. You are in grief. You're in grief. So she didn't feel like doing that. Okay. So I gave her permission to be sad, to be where she was, because that was an appropriate response to her young son's death. So sadness is not a weakness. And what is the scripture? A lot of us, again, really don't have an understanding of that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. So we're to be strong in the Lord, but not in and of ourselves. So we need to learn how to really be weak. We need to learn how to show our emotions. And for a lot of us, that can certainly be a hard thing. So this movie, it basically illustrates how every emotion has a purpose. Can you put that in the chat? Every emotion has a purpose. So you must allow yourself to feel all of them, even if it's uncomfortable. You got to allow yourself to feel all of those emotions, okay? Whether it's sadness, joy, anger, whatever it is. You want to allow yourself to do that because all of them have a role in your healing process. It helps you deal with change, with loss, and the complexities, again, of moving through life. And according to Riley, it was helping her to grow up. What if we taught our children at a young age about these sensitive topics, like grief, like managing your money, like taking care of your physical health, like taking care of your mental health? We would set them up for success. I wish my parents had the wherewithal to teach me about finances. They didn't. They did the best that they could. So I've been an adult within the last 10 years, within the last decade or so, learning how to deal with finances. Same thing with grief. When you think about children, think about your children, those of you who have children, or think about your grandchildren or some children you see at church, the kids that won't stop crying in church. I remember as a pastor's wife, I would get up. When the parents couldn't get the child to be quiet, I would leave my seat. I would go get that kid. Like, okay, now baby, we're going to have to quiet him down. Okay? I would help calm him down, but those were emotions being expressed. And so a lot of us are not able to express our emotions as an adult because our emotions or our expression of emotions, it was shut down when we were children in an unhealthy way. So in the handout, it's talking about understanding that grief is not about naming a loss. It's about honoring the emotions and feelings that rise. Okay. So you want to honor that. You want to honor whatever emotion comes up. Okay. So grief is not a moment. It is certainly a journey. And we know that to be true. And grief lives in your body. Did you know that? That grief lives in your body. For those of you who have been here before, I've taught you that grief is what happens on the inside of you. Mourning is what happens on the outside of you. For those of you who follow me on social book, I just shared a post about a lady whose parents, who are really her spiritual parents, but they're more like her biological parents, they died about 6 days apart because of a broken heart. And guess what? They're pastors. They were pastors. The man died first, and the lady is like her mom. She said, my mom just gave up. And 6 days later, she was gone. So there is a real diagnosis called the broken heart syndrome. Okay? the broken heart syndrome. So if you don't allow yourself to express your emotions, where's all of that going? It's staying on the inside of you. It's staying on the inside. So I want you to give yourself permission to feel. Definitely give yourself permission to feel. Give yourself grace for not having it all figured out. Give yourself grace for not having it all figured out. Okay? Because grief shows up differently for each of us. It really, really does. I may be sad, but others may be, experiencing anger. Others may be experiencing anger. So, in the handout, it says that grief, we need to view it as a language. View it as a language, okay? So it says this is going to help us understand it when we view it as a language. So when we talk about language, I don't know about y'all, but did y'all take Spanish or a foreign language when you were younger? I did. In high school and middle school, I took Spanish, and boy, do I regret not learning, not retaining that information. I basically just took the class to pass, right? I didn't want to retain it. And now look at our world. Bilingual people, again, there is a high need for employees who are bilingual. So you have to understand that grief is like a language, and you must understand what's happening in that language. So that means you got to learn the vocabulary that goes with it. So it says by doing so, you'll learn to recognize and interpret your emotions as signals. That's all they are. Your emotions are signals which help you navigate grief and become more aware and move you towards your healing process. So it says in the handout, grieving individuals often have deep, reflective, and sometimes confusing questions. And we do. We have those questions depending upon how our loved one died, if it's a death loss or if it's a divorce, if you lost a job, if you received a diagnosis and you're asking, God, why me? What is really going on? So you'll have all of these questions, but guess what? Questioning is only a sign of active grieving. It's not a weakness, especially for people of faith. We have a tendency to think because we don't ask questions, we shouldn't ask questions, that it's weakness. It is not. It's not a weakness. It's just showing that you're actively grieving. So what does it do when you ask questions? It helps you process. It helps you to process your emotions, to challenge your assumptions, and to actually work through your pain. All right? To work through your pain. So on page 3 in the handout, if you have that and you're following, there are some questions that I ask you. And I want to see which ones you relate to. Which questions have you asked yourself during your grief journey? So it's 20 of them. So I'm just going to kind of read them, and you can comment if you want to in the comment section and say me. That was me. Me. I can relate. That was me. So the very first question that a lot of people ask me, is it normal to feel numb instead of sad? Yes, it is. Absolutely. I did a grief presentation on Friday at a church full of women. And it was very, very wonderful because it was all generations there, from young ones to older ones. And I was so excited to see the older ones ask questions. And one of the older ladies said, I'm 75 and I just don't feel nothing because I've never allowed myself to express and feel. So absolutely, it is normal to feel that. Okay. Question number 2 asks us, why do my feelings change so quickly? Okay. One moment I'm okay, and then the next moment I'm about to fall apart. That's called the roller coaster of grief. That is absolutely normal. Okay. The feelings are all over the place. Grief is messy. Grief is not linear. It doesn't go in a straight line from point A all the way to point Z. Okay, grief is like an emotional roller coaster. You go up and you go down. Number 3, the question is, how long will I feel this way? Okay. And how do I know when I'm done grieving? So remember, I just shared with you earlier that grief is an internal emotional response to absolutely any loss. Okay. So you will know that you are done grieving as it relates to the pain of grief, but grief never ends because it's an emotional response. It's going to always be there. If it's a death loss and you think about the person that died or departed for whatever reason, it could be 10 years down the road and you may end up shedding a tear or two. It doesn't mean that you have digressed. It just means that you love them. Queen Elizabeth taught us before she died, she made a statement that grief is the price that we pay for love. So if you love someone or something and it's not a part of your life anymore, guess what you start doing? You start grieving. So again, to answer that question, you're never done grieving because it's internal, but you should be done with the pain of grief at least after about 5 years, because it takes up to 5 years to find that new normal. Okay? You got to find that new normal. And it determines what type of grief you're dealing with. So if you have a loss that was a tragic death, that can be a bit complicated, especially if there's a case associated with it. Have one client I've been working with for 3 years because her young son was murdered about a week or two before his prom. I think he was only 18 or 17, one of the two, and he's gone unexpectedly. And the very first time I met her, I said, ma'am, this is going to be a long haul. This is not going to be a short journey, not a sprint. It's a marathon. And it's going to be painful, but it's absolutely doable. So I was wanting to work on her expectations. I said, we're going to have to take it slow until the case is resolved, one way or the other, whether it's in favor of what we want or not. And that just happened last year, I believe. End of last year, maybe the beginning of this year. It's been 3 years. Okay? It's been 3 years. So for people like that, dealing with trauma and grief, that's why the 5-year mark can fill up very, very quickly. And it may even take a little longer after that to really find some normalcy. Okay, so question number 4, is it normal to feel relief after a loss, especially if it was a difficult relationship? Absolutely is. It doesn't mean that you are a mean person because you feel relieved. Caregivers feel that when you are caring for a sick patient and the patient dies, maybe your wife, your husband, your child, your aunt, grandparent, whomever it is, and they've been declining slowly right in front of you, and then all of a sudden they pass. Okay, so it's absolutely normal to feel that relief. Feel that relief. That's a common response in grief. I had to get some water there. So, question number 5 says, why do I feel guilty for the things I did or did do or did not do? Guilt is a common grief response. It really is. Even when you know you did everything to take care of your loved one, grief will pop up every now and like, man, did I do the right thing? Did I take him to the doctor soon enough? Did I give him the right medication? So guilt is a normal response. Number 7 says, what if I regret the last words I said or I did not say? Yes, that happens a lot as well. And so you definitely need to process that. You can definitely process it through journaling or what I call mind dumping. But you definitely want to deal with that emotion and don't allow it to just be on the inside of you and you not express that. But it is normal to feel that way. Let's see. Number 9 says, why do I feel disconnected from my emotions, like I should be crying, but I cannot? Now that happens a lot of times because of what's happening in our brain, in the amygdala part of our brain in the back. That's where the fight or flight, freeze or fawn kind of hangs out. So within that, within the freeze part of our brain, there's a portion of our brain back there, freeze, like we get stuck in a space or we dissociate. We disconnect from the reality of what's going on. So that's how a lot of times you can be disconnected in your emotions. can be disconnected in your emotions. So let's see, number 10. Is it okay to feel happiness or joy while I'm grieving? Yes. Yes, it is absolutely okay. A lot of people don't like to express that their emotions of happiness and joy because they feel guilty. And they think they are dishonoring their loved one if it's a death loss. But no, happiness, joy, sadness, and anger, all of those emotions can be housed at the same time within you. Okay, so that's why you want to give expression to it. Number 11, why do I feel jealous when I see others who have not experienced this loss? Yes, it is. You get jealous if it's a spouse that dies. So maybe on vacation, on Valentine's Day, when you see the couples all booed up, yeah, you kind of feel, oh, sad. I wish I had a person. I wish my loved one was here. Or for me, I experienced that when my baby died. When Chelsea died, I carried her for 5 months, and then my water broke due to a mysterious infection. The doctors still to this date don't know what it was, and that's why I had to give birth to her. And so when I went in for my a follow up after being on maternity leave when she passed, all these babies in the office, they should have a different office when the baby passes. They should have a different office for the women whose baby died. And I went in there and I sat as long as I could. I sat and I ended up sitting for an hour. And I saw one lady come in. She was huge. She was waddling back to the back, and when she came from the back, she was crying, but it was tears of joy. And she had just found out that she was having twins. She didn't know that. So she was happy. And when I saw her happiness, my sadness rose and tears started rolling down my face. I got up. I said, I'm leaving. I said, I've been here an hour. Y'all, they forgot I was even there. They apologized, but they forgot I even had an appointment. Okay, so I did. I felt some jealousy. I'm like, God, she got two babies. She thought she was getting one, and I couldn't even get one. So it's normal to experience that. You just have to process through that. Okay. Number 12. Is it normal to feel resentful toward people who say the wrong things? That's normal. Yeah, a lot of times people don't have an understanding of grief and they don't know what to say. Yesterday, I had a client call me and was having a tough time and got some things going on. And one of the friends reached out and shared some things that did not sit well with my client. And my client was about to do some snipping, some cutting off. I said, wait, wait, wait. Okay, let's not put them out of the wheel yet. I said, they just identified that they don't know what to say. That's all. They don't understand grief. And so when you find people like that, it is okay. You just unplug from them and you know you have to find other people who are supportive of you, not saying that they allow you to wallow in your pity forever, but they know how to provide balance for you. They know how to provide balance. Okay. So yes, you can become resentful toward people who say the wrong things. 13. Why do I feel relief that they are no longer suffering, but also feel deep sadness? You can feel both of them at the same time. Relief that they're not here, they're not suffering, they're not in pain anymore. But I also am relieved again that they're not here because my life has been centered around them. And what happens in that case, you guys have to figure out who you are now. You got to figure out how to manage that time that you were caregiving. What are you going to do with that time? My encouragement to you is to make sure you use that time for yourself to take care of you. Number 14 says, why do I feel lonely even when people surround me? Because grief is isolating. It can be. It can make you feel like nobody else in the world understands. It can make you feel like you're the only one. That was one of the things my sister said to me. I was mad at her at first. When I was processing through my divorce, she went through a divorce 2 years ago. You know, but they were taught, she was taught in that generation, you just pray about it and you move on. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't respond that way. I couldn't pray because I was mad. I was mad at God. So, but guess what I did? I called people to pray for me. I believe it says that, doesn't it, Pastor Wendell, somewhere over in the New Testament, maybe in James, where it talks about if there be any sick among you, let them call for the elders. That's what I did because I was mad at God. Well, I didn't want to pray, so I wasn't finna pray. But guess what? I called people who could pray. They could pray on my behalf. So see, that doesn't even make sense, right? It's like an oxymoronic statement that if I'm angry with God, but I call people who have a connection with him, who I know can get in contact with God through prayer, and let them pray for me. So I'm praying, having them pray for me to a God that I'm mad at. See, it's all emotions. It's all emotions. If I was really mad at him to the point that I wanted to leave him, I wouldn't have him pray. And I remember one of the little ladies, one of my spiritual moms, when she came, just as sweet as she can be and can pray heaven down. And she said, well, honey, do you want to pray? I said, no, that's why I called you over here. I don't want to pray. I want you to pray. I think she thought she was going to change my mind when she came over. I'm like, no, I don't want to pray. I want you to pray for me. Okay. Number 15. Why do I feel like that no one understands my grief? That is a common experience of a lot of people. Especially people who are close to you, and you think that they would understand it. That's not necessarily true. One of the things that I started doing within this last decade is I added grief as a subject to be discussed in my premarital counseling and couples counseling, but definitely in the premarital, because at some point somebody's going to die. A parent's going to die, a child, God forbid, or somebody's going to die that's close to us, or we're going to experience some type of life transition that would cause us to grieve. I need to know, how do you grieve? How do you cope? Do you even acknowledge it? What are your thoughts about therapy? Are you one of those people that say, I don't need nobody? I don't want to tell anybody my business? You need to know all of that before you marry somebody. Before you marry them, then you get in the marriage and they can't provide that support for you. Okay? So it's okay to understand that not everybody is going to understand your journey. They're not going to do that. So number 16, why do I feel pressure to be strong for others when I am struggling? It's because you've been conditioned that way. That's called people pleasing, and that's a trauma response in your brain. And that amygdala back there, that's called people pleasing. You want to please everybody, and you've been doing it for so long because whatever happened to you caused a place of trauma for you, that you were wounded to the point you won't ever see anybody else hurt. That was me. I don't like seeing people hurt. Oh my gosh, when I first started coaching and grief counseling, I was wanting healing, deliverance, and recovery. I wanted it more than the client wanted for themselves. I'm working all different kind of hours, just trying to accommodate people to make sure they get support. I had to realize, girl, you have put yourself up on a pedestal, an idol. Wrong answer. You are not Jesus. And I was wanting it more than they did. Okay. So I had to pull back. I had to pull back on that. Okay. So number 17, how do I handle people who tell me to move on when I'm not ready to? Okay. So you want to look at where you are in the grief journey. Okay. If it's new, if it's fresh, if it's raw, or if it's 20 years down the road and you still upset if somebody wants you to move on. The verbiage, like we've talked about vocabulary. So the verbiage, I say, instead of moving on, move forward. Move forward. Because moving on can give you the indication. A lot of people say, I don't want to leave my loved one behind. Well, they left us behind. The truth, they did. They're not here anymore. So if a person dies, they are a spirit being. We are not. We have a body. So they left us in this space. So we're not leaving them. Again, because they'll always be in the memory. They'll always be in the heart. Okay, so it's absolutely, you move forward with your grief to where you're able to manage it better and it's not painful at all, because that's what's supposed to end, is the pain of grief. That pain should be subsiding as you move through the years. Okay, number 18, what if I do not want to let go of my grief because it feels like I'm letting them go? Again, you're going to find yourself stuck. That's right, Sophia. You said they left us. Yes, they did. So you're going to find yourself stuck. Okay? If you want to hold on to, to your grief. I made a post the other day. I said, grief is permanent, but suffering from it, that is optional. That is a choice. You do not have to suffer forever. No, that's not how God intended us to experience grief. Grief is a normal response. But from a spiritual standpoint, then some of us are moving into what is called abnormal grief or a spirit of heaviness, right? So I want you to realize that, again, you can release the pain of grief, but it's not letting go the memory of who they were to you. All right? They were to you. So number 19, how do I carry their memory without feeling weighed down by the sadness? Allowing yourself to process the sadness. As you allow yourself to process that, you won't be weighed down with the memory because, again, the brain holds memories. That's what it was designed to do by God, hold memories. That's why it is important to process your grief, your emotions. So when you are triggered, when something comes to the surface again, as it relates to your brain, it won't take you down the rabbit hole. If it takes you downward, that means that you're a little tender there and some more work that you've got to do. Question 20. Question 20. Is it okay to find love, happiness, or a new purpose after loss? Absolutely it is. Yes, one of the things that I share when I'm working with people in the beginning, if it's a death loss you're dealing with, the best way to honor them and their life is for you to live well. Okay, if it was a spouse that died, yeah, get married again. Doesn't matter what age you are, you can find love again. You can. I had one lady, a senior years ago before the pandemic. Yeah, her husband died and she said, I'm not going to find anybody like my husband. My husband was everything to me. He's the only man on earth that can love me the way that he did. I said, well, there's another man that can love you. He's not going to love you like your first husband did, but he's going to love you the way that he needs to. And I saw her maybe 4 years after that, after her saying that, and we were at a banquet, and she called me over. She said, I got something to tell you. And she said, you were so right. At that time, I think she was probably 74. And she was dating. I'm like, girl, does he have any sons? For me. Listen, dating as you get older, it's a little bit rough. It's a little bit rough. The selections are few. The selections are few. So yes, it's okay to find love. It's okay to find happiness or a new purpose after loss. Okay? So what are emotions and feelings? Emotions and feelings. A lot of us use that interchangeably, but they're different. Your emotions are automatic. They are what happens within you. So here's the thing about emotions. Some people think they're not emotional. We all are. Every human being is emotional because it's what happens on the inside of you. It's triggered by something external or internal. Okay? They originate again in the physical part of your brain called the limbic system, back here at the back with that amygdala. And they happen before you even have a conscious thought. An emotion can pop up before you even think about what's happening. Okay? Because emotions are hardwired into our brain. They're hardwired into our brain. I was working with a single mom, not too long ago, getting support for one of the younger children because their dad died. Well, the mom is afraid of dogs. The mom is afraid of dogs. And guess what? The child is too. But that wasn't a fear that the child got on them on their own. The mother caused them to be afraid because she's afraid of dogs. Okay? And now it was hardwired in her brain. Now she's got it hardwired in her child's brain. And the child asked me at the end of the session, they were there for grief support for dad, and I have 2 dogs. And I had them in the cage. And he wanted to see them. So I let the child go see them. And the question they asked, can you help me with overcoming my fear of dogs? I'm like, yes, we can work on that. That is so good that he was breaking away from what his mama was feeling. So emotions are on the inside. Feelings are different. Feelings are the subjective interpretation of that emotion on the inside. And our feelings are highly influenced by our thoughts, okay, our beliefs and our past experiences. And they originate in what is called the neocortex, or the higher level thinking of our brain, like right here in the front. Okay. So they're shaped definitely by our experiences in life. So when it comes to your feelings, just like that mom, she feels all dogs are going to bite her because she was bit when she was younger. So emotions, they're on the inside. It's the instinctive response by your body. If there was a loud boom in your room and in my room, I'm quite sure we would jump. Okay. That's a physical response, but then the emotional response would be to become fearful, like, oh my God, what was that? That's emotion instantly. You didn't have to think about that. You just responded. But the feeling is your thought about what happened. Okay. So then you're going to interpret that now. What was that? Was that a gunshot, or was it a firecracker? What was it? Wow, what just came to mind a moment ago when I was working in the funeral home years ago. That was at Dr. Spencer's funeral home here in Fort Worth. And at that time, that was in the 80s, were gang bangers. I don't even know that's what they call them anymore. But we had a lot of gang deaths. There was the Crips and the Bloods. So there was a lot of deaths during the 80s. And I'll never forget this funeral. I didn't want to work it because we had to have police security the whole time because there was a threat. It was a threat against the family because of the gang war, retaliation. I was like, Mr. Spencer, can I stay at the funeral home? I don't want to work this funeral. I had to drive the first family car and all of that. And the tension was thick as, it was so thick. It was thick throughout the whole service. And the viewing was in the back at First St. John, right up on the hill here in Fort Worth. Never forget that. And we were viewing, and they were passing everybody out. So the family was the last to go out. And by the time it was time for the family to go out and view, we heard this loud pop. We all started running. I left the family and all. Listen, I left them. Y'all on your own. I'm not going to get shot at this funeral. I ran into the pastor's study and learned there was no exit. I called the police, all of that. Why am I giving you that example? Because all of us heard that loud pop and we interpreted it as a gunshot because the tension was so high, but it wasn't. Guess what it was, y'all? It was someone who was experiencing grief, and they started crying and they hit the wall, pop. And that's what it was. So our feelings told us to run. So our feelings can not be accurate a lot of times. So you don't want to trust your feelings, all right? So why is it important to understand this in grief? Is because your emotions arise spontaneously and your feelings develop over time. Your feelings develop over time. So questions I want you to ask yourself, am I connected or disconnected with my feelings? Do I give myself permission to actually feel, express my emotions? Are you okay with your current feelings? Are you okay with that? So I want you to download the handout so you can look at the rest of the information. Some other homework for you to do in addition to watching the film is to look at the things, what you can do to release your emotions. You can express through your words. You can release through movement. You can express through creativity. You can allow safe emotional expression. And definitely you can engage in faith-based or naturalistic activity. Those are some things that you put in your toolbox to kind of help you express your emotions and your feelings in a healthy way. So, download the handout. Go to the link under this particular video so you can download it and you can do your homework, because you can come on these lives. That's a great thing. But the transformation and the healing only takes place when we apply the tools that we learn. Okay, when we apply the tools that we learn. So excited to see you guys. We will see you next fourth Sunday. Okay, so mark your calendars. We're here every fourth Sunday. Y'all have a good afternoon as I turn it back over to Mr. Barry Franklin. Uh-oh, are you on? I can't hear you.
It's the engineer's fault. Can you hear now?
I can hear you now.
I got to do all that over again. Get a
Yep.
rope. Anyway, happy Black History and all the other things that go with that. The engineer let me know that this was what kind of margarita day on a Sunday, the fourth Sunday. All they thinking about the engineer is margaritas, not the blood of Jesus, but margaritas. Lord, deliver me from. I wish the. I still seen him. See, I ain't got time for no margarita today. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. The day after. Listen, thank y'all for tuning in. Great hands for our great facilitator, Dr. Tonya Cunningham. Uh, I get teary eyed just thinking about when we started and where she came from, where I was, and all that has transpired in betwixt, in between, and that. And wonderful. Thank you for joining. Now, you know, if you're at some of the other Booger Bears, let me just talk about this certain film director in Houston that has in their, they really need to call you, Dr. Cunningham. They have in their mind that they are a great musician. They want to tell me that they play in keys we don't play. I said, what key? Well, I play in the key of S and I play in the key of Z. And they claim all the songs I named that they have already written back yonder way. So if I tell them to come play, they say that my events aren't big enough for them to make an appearance. You know that part. They claim they're in South Richmond on Sunday morning. Then they had to go to Will Avenue, then to Lily Grove, and go down to that little church in Bastrop, the historical Mount Road. They really need some help. They really do. Because they're beginning to believe themselves. You know, there are people who are legends in their own time, and then there are people who are legends in their own mind. Amen. Anyhow, sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying. Thank you again for supporting. Those of you that came to our senior citizen Valentine's Day ball, thank you for coming. I know y'all had a wonderful time. It was there. Y'all dressed up. Y'all smelled good. And y'all was ready. Y'all was ready. Y'all was ready. Congratulations to our king, Mr. Richard Hicks, and our queen, Aunt Nettie Owens Smothers there. That was a group that chose who was the best dressed there. And that's how they was chosen there. So never know, we're gonna do some. Our next project, we're gonna do something for the youth of the community out there. And I'm getting some consultation from what we need to instill into our youth there. Got to give it to our people because nobody else will give it to them. You know, I wanted to have a senior citizen because you know senior citizens are not go. I'm in that group too. We ain't going nowhere after dark 30. We got to be home to watch the news, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and read the newspaper to make sure our name's not in the obituary section. So that's why we had it 12 noon to 3:30 p.m. Thank Regina Spivey, Fancy Foot Catering, for wonderful. Everyone just had a wonderful time over there enjoying. We will be in person. We'll be at the event center next month, March the 22nd, 3:30 to 4:30, 16912 North IH 35, a light celebration by Franklin Event Center. That's what we'll be. We're about to switch to a new pre-need company. I refuse to let people get with a company that's going to rob them, and then when it's time when they die, they don't hardly pay anything. So we should have that completed by next month over there. Make sure we have two locations, Austin and Taylor. But the Austin can do more. We've had a wedding there, a church had a banquet there. We have some graduation parties planned, some more weddings. I'm just waiting on the divorce party to come through and sign up for the divorce party. We'll do that too. Whatever you want, we can handle it. We can handle it. Good parking and a light celebration. If you watch me, we're the only funeral home in this area, Central, that has more bathroom space than any other funeral home. But ladies, you ain't got to stand in line. There are 6 stalls for you. Men, you have 6 stalls. Thought of it all. This last thing I want to tell you, we had the service of a great past pastor, Pastor Alonzo Hargrove, Friday at Mount Island. I almost called, it used to be called New Mount Island Baptist Church. Can I tell you, on a Friday the church was packed. There was no parking places. Tell your crazy, quit listening to your crazy cuz talking about the only time people gonna come to a funeral is on a Saturday. At what time? 11. Don't work no more. When you live a life and touch lives, people will come regardless of the day of the week and give tribute to your life. And besides, some of these cemeteries don't put a premium on Saturday services, almost $2,000 just for having. So you better re-event that wheel over there. Thank you again. And talk to the engineer about these calendars. Y'all keep calling me. I'm going to start giving his number out. Ooh, I can't hear nothing. Couldn't hear nobody pray way down yonder by myself. Couldn't hear nobody pray. But anyhow, next month in person, March 22nd, 16912 North 5. Go share this with someone that needs it. That's our problem. We don't share enough. Now, we'll tell some bad news and talk about people bad, but when something good is going on, some help that you don't have to pay for it, go share it with people. Then they won't have to be going sitting on the psychiatrist's couch paying $450 an hour. When I say blue, what do you think? When I say green, what do you think? When I say red, he said, I think you're going to have about 6 more months of therapy. Make sure your co-payment's paid. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.